Top of the day, beautiful people. Happy Tuesday. Oh, yeah. It is May the 17th, 2022, day 110 of year 4 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets under the 4-year consecutive day count. Day 1000 book on page 95. Yeah, page 95, the book of Apollo. Page 95. And then we'll hop on over to the meditation book on page 126. And we also start a new section 3. Yeah, in the meditation book. All right, so let's get started. May y'all continue to bless us as we walk on this path of truth. All right, y'all. Put my books in order here. All right. Page 95. Oahspe, Book of Apollo, son of Jehovah. Being the heavenly administration of Apollo, an Ethereal god. You know what? Before I get started and get too far, let me just go ahead just in case and give y'all this Facebook link just in case it start going in and out. Hold on. Minimize this. So love. Okay. All right, I got the link. Copy. Okay, y'all. Coming back over here to YouTube. All right, here we go. Okay, so we start relation here. 1, 2, jump above. Okay. All right. Chapter 1. Apollo, son of Jehovah, resident of Timus, or Pitimus, P might be silent, I don't know, I just say Pitimus. Resident of Pitimus and Ethera, god of Sufad and Danga and Ta, in the south province of Baru, Orion chief, controller of vortices, said, I, Apollo, once a mortal, proclaim, first, wisdom, peace, and patience unto all men, and comprehensive judgment whereof I speak. Second, to perceive the reason of things as to what seemeth to have been, and of what come after. For the Great Spirit is all harmony and perfection, abounding in time and in worlds to accomplish all possible imaginings. Wherefore, be ye magnified in conception not judging by the little understanding of mortals, so that he that asserteth so he that asserteth harmony, being more to the order of Jehovah than that which is ill formed or out of time, hath little reason to prove his assertion before a wise man, as one may assert that ripe fruit is nearer perfection than that which is green, which assertion is self evident without proof. So, in the understanding of gods and the management of worlds, are things past and present, not things past and present in fact, but more like the immature and the mature. Since then, man perceiveth that words, at best, are but slow and coarse representations of the soul's conception of things, how much farther distant lieth a God's wisdom beyond the reach of mortal understanding. Remember, O man, that couldst thou in a moment of time recollect our hold on, let me start over. Remember, O man, that hold on, let me start it again. Remember, O man, that couldst thou in a moment of time recollect all thou hast ever learned, thou wouldst be wise indeed. Were thou in tune with thyself, such would be thy wisdom, to advance in such direction whereby man become attuned first with himself, then with his immediate surroundings, then with the magnitude of worlds, and then with Jehovah, so that he moveth, acteth, and comprehended harmoniously, is to become one with the Father. And I kind of read over something, almost, I ain't gonna say word for word, but in the same line, with what I just read in the raw contact. It was talking about literally how to tune your body, and how meditation is a great, let me just sum it up, meditation is like a great tool for that, and how you absolutely must know your body. Trina, hey girl, hey, like you really have to know what the ins and outs, not just the physical naming of such, but how each thing operates. If you like really to move further along than what most people do, you really have to become in tune with that. And once you get the physical side down, you got to begin to understand the spiritual significance behind every organ and stuff. I'm just like, man, well, we're on a path. We're gonna figure it out. It'll take us a little while to get there. Hopefully not too long, but we're on the path. We're learning. But it's amazing. Let me just read this again. Remember, O man, couldst thou in a moment of time recollect all thou hast ever learned, thou would be wise indeed. Wert thou in tune with thyself, such would be thy wisdom, to advance in such direction, whereby man becometh attuned first with himself, then with his immediate surroundings, then with the magnitude of worlds, and then with Jehovah, so that he moveth, acteth, and comprehendeth harmoniously, is to become one with the Father, which condition awaiteth all men, and is called in high heaven nirvana, because to him that hath attained it, things past and things to come are as an open book. He can look back to his own beginning in the world, and even beyond, and whithersoever he directeth his eye, he can see and hear, even as if the matter were now. Marvel not, O man, that the gods revealed the words and signs of things long since perished corporally. The proofs he could give, thou couldst not understand, for the basis of spiritual entity lieth not within the measure of corporal senses. Nevertheless, Jehovah hath given thee comparisons, as a portrait of a man showeth his looks even after his corporal body hath perished, and yet the picture is but a representative. To the spirit, a corporal body is but a representative, being a manifested production of a spirit. As out of corporal things a new thing is produced and born into the world, so out of Jehovah is born the spirit of man. Neither leadeth the corporal the spirit, nor the spirit the corporal, but Jehovah doeth it all. Think not then that when the corporal body is dead and moldereth back to original elements, that in like manner the spirit of man will resolve back into Jehovah. For spirit is not bound by similar rules. Read it aloud. Hold on. Yeah, this is good. Okay. Think not then that when the corporal body is dead and moldereth back to original elements, that in like manner the spirit of man will resolve itself back into Jehovah. For spirit is not bound by similar rules. As the corporal body groweth by aggregating to itself, so not so groweth the spirit of man, but by the opposite, which is giving away. Remember, O man, the more thou puttest forth thy soul to give light and wisdom to others, the more thou receivest, wherein thou shalt comprehend in the reason of things everlasting life to the spirit of man. This, listen, okay, the raw contact, right? Listen. So it was like actually talking about this. The section I was in, I forget which session it was. My books came, so I'm in like this first one. I got this, the original ones, and I got the anniversary edition. It might be overkill. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing anything, right? So I got this one and the anniversary version from the ones who redid the Audible. But it in one session they asked about the lifespan of man, right? And how the lifespan used to be longer. I believe they said like 900 years, right? The original lifespan was about 900 years. I'm like, okay, the Bible said about maybe about 1,000. Some of the other things that I've read, I was like, still kind of close, maybe shy of 100 years or so, right? That was the original lifespan because it would take that long to learn everything we would need to learn, right? So it's quite a few books, whether religious or non-religious, that allude to that fact. And also in Black Root Science, they gave a really good, they explained it really well, I think. But also, and it was saying that you needed that long to live because everything that we're finding out we need to learn now, if you don't learn it all in one lifetime, and now that the lifespan has been cut down to like sometimes less under 100 years, right? Most people not still living to 100, but it's more people today living to be 100 than it has been in quite a few generations past. But it started talking about this exact same thing that this portion, this particular scripture is talking about it. Well, you can just call it like the acts of service to man. And the more we become selfish, the more we lose years off of our life. If we're just living just completely for self, the lifespan is cut short. And so you got to keep coming back multiple times so you learn all the lessons that you would have learned in the original long lifespan that we were given in the first place. But now it's just cut off. So imagine in the state that we are now. Let's not even talking about before the flood when it was wiped out. Just imagine the state of the world today, even us here in America. Imagine if people got to live in their foolishness for 1,000 years. Imagine how we think sometimes the world is terrible now with the stuff that's going on. Imagine if they got way longer to do that. And some of them that's creating havoc living, some of them died early in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. But some of them jokers look like they both 200 years old. They old and decrepit, and somebody need to take them out. Like they just need to eat their last meal and just go, right? I used to have that thought about a few people in high positions. I'm like, why are they still here? You need to go ahead and send them back through. Let them try it again. But just imagine. So I can see why, although in my understanding now, I wish my lifespan was longer, right? I'm because it's still at this point, I don't know how many times I've had to do this. But I tell you one thing, I'm gonna get all I can get this time because I ain't coming through this joke again, at least not in the 3D or the 4D dimension. We ain't doing that. No, I'm coming back to help. That's why I'm trying to learn everything I can now to wake myself up and wake up those who will listen, who have ears to hear, right? We ain't doing this no more. Ain't nobody got time for that. I'm trying to remember all the lessons so I can keep going I'm tired of being put in remedial classes. Okay, but anyway, I said all that to say there's a portion. It's one of the sessions before you get to session. I want to say before you get to session 17, because session 17 and 718 specifically talks about uh JC. They start asking questions about that. I know primordial cosmic energy. We're gonna get to it. We're gonna get to it. It says in Oahspe, it says you don't reincarnate. We still walking through everything together. We weighing information. That's what we're doing here, right? All the information we get, we're bringing it together. As we see things, we adjust, right? So just everything that we possibly believe today, it everything is on the table till we get more and more information. But we ain't got to that part yet, bruh. I'm sorry. I'm saying, bruh. You could be a female. I'm sorry. All right. So back to the reading. I'm gonna read this again. Okay, verse 9, page 96, the first chapter, the book of Apollo. Remember, O man, the more thou puttest forth thy soul to give light and wisdom to others, the more thou receivest, wherein thou shalt comprehend in the reasoning of things everlasting life to the spirit of man. So also to him that desireth to comprehend Jehovah, let him describe the all highest constantly. To him that desires to comprehend the Ethereal worlds, the homes of spirits long risen in nirvana, let him describe them. Fear not, O man, that thou shalt err. All the imagery thou canst devise is surpassed millions of times in the multitude of the Father's kingdoms, till thou canst shoot an arrow without striking the air. Fear not for thy weak thoughts shooting amiss in Jehovah's worlds. All right, chapter 2. I, Apollo, earthborn of the continent Pan, submerged by Aph, the Orion chief, by Jehovah's command, proclaim in the name of the Father, creator of worlds, peace and wisdom unto all nations and tribes of men. First, against all vanity and self conceit in the souls of men, wherein every cycle asserteth itself wise and great and learned, and the ancients fools. For the evidence of wisdom lieth not in learning one thing only, but in the adaptation of man to Jehovah and his works. Kind of like what we just said, right? We'll adjust as we go. You're right, absolutely right. We went over that a lot. They said I read the Oahspe. It's pretty good, but I subscribe to one book. No one book has all the right answers. Remember, everything is written by man. Everything is written by man, right? Everybody has a different vantage point of what we're doing here, why we're here. Um and that's just the way it is. Everybody has their own individual path where they have to learn. They mulling it through in their own mind so they get the proper comprehension. But the point is to keep going, right? Not to just this is it, I got to be stuck here, right? Yah gives us freedom to grow and to move and to ask questions. Like I said before, the earth is literally a lab where we can test. There's trial and there's error, right? We're going to make mistakes along the way. Just keep going. It's okay. It's a part of the process. Okay. For the evidence of wisdom lieth not in learning one thing only, but in the adaptation of man to Jehovah and his works, in which measure the modern and ancient stand not upon their judgment in the matter, but by Jehovah's. For if the ancient was not perfect in his place, neither art thou, O man, of this day, but before the gods are all the ages adapted as Jehovah created them. Judge not him, for thy judgment is limited. That which was profitable to the soul of man, the Father revealed to the ancients. That which is profitable to the soul of man today, revealeth he this day. For which reason I, his son, am come to fulfill my labor, even as all men in time must complete that which hath been assigned to them, to rebuke vanity and self conceit in them that perceive not wisdom in things long past, but applaud themselves without just measure before Jehovah, wherein the gods perceive their vanity and pity them hoping rather to exalt their minds that they may learn to perceive the Father's hand manifested in all things. Turn thine eyes inward, O man, and look to the spirit of things. Make thyself as a God looking down on a new earth where man hath been quickened into life and attained to strength and learning. Behold his palaces and temples, his work in stone and iron, and gold and silver, his knowledge of the sun and moon and stars, with written books to read, with clothes for the body and shoes for the feet, with great generals and armies of soldiers, and with the land cultivated. Are these civilized and war abounding? By what right hast thou made thyself a judge, O man? Who hath measured the inhabitants of the earth and found them pure and wise? Do more people now live on the land in peace and happiness than in many of the cycles past? Because thou art different in many excellencies, thou shalt also remember that many great inventions are forgotten. The world hath been peopled over many times, and many times with the man. Who is his chief enemy today? Is it not thyself? Think not, O man, that because a few people perceive the higher light, the world is wise and good before the gods. For in all ages there have been a few. Yea, today there are few more in number than in the ancient days. And this is the sum of the enlightenment of And this is the sum of the enlightenment in the world. Hear me, O man of earth, and ye angels of heaven. I proclaim harmony, symmetry, and music. I am of the days of the fountain of these talents descending to mortals. I was a shapely stone in Jehovah's edifice, and by hard toil a fashioner of the flesh, mold of man and woman. As the ear of one man heareth music, and he crieth out with delight, a tune, and as the ear of another man heareth, and he cannot discern, and he crieth out a noise, a hideous noise. Wherefore then shall ye not judge them and say, the one hath an ear for music and the other not? The one is one with the music, the other, being discordant himself, declare there is no tune, but only noise. To which will ye give preference in judgment as to music? And that reminds me of something. Many years ago, I went to pick up my cousin. I was still active duty military, right? I went to pick up my cousin. At this time, I love different types of music, right? So at this particular time, I was listening to Creed, and they had this one song that I really loved. So I had it playing when she got into the car, and so we was pulling off, and I was just jamming, right? That was my jank. So she got in the car, and I noticed she got like a little uneasy and stuff, and she was just like, she just looked at me with this look like, what is this you listen to? I was like, girl, it's my junk. And she said, Pam, if you don't cut this crap off, she said, this is a bunch of noise. I said, no, it's not. I said, just listen to the words, man. Listen. She said, look, if you don't turn this off, I'm like, girl, chill out. And so I turned it up a little bit. She put her hands on her ears. She said, man, cut this crap off. This is a bunch of noise. I'm like, dude, really? And I just started laughing. I'm like, girl, you don't know good music when you hear it. And so I cut it off. But that reminded me of that. Yeah, so one thing, it's like that saying, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, right? One thing that seems beautiful to one person may seem like absolute garbage to another, right? But which one you gonna say is wrong? You gonna say the one that saw beauty is wrong, or the one that says garbage is wrong, right? You can't. He who beholdeth, I'm sorry, who hath not beholden Jehovah, the all person? Who is it that crieth out, I behold him not? No harmony, no symmetry, no music, no complete whole. And to which will ye give preference in judgment? Is not the judgment of the perceiver higher than he who perceiveth not? This, I don't know. Let me see if I can connect this thing. Hold on, y'all. I know it's gonna cut this off. Hold on. Just jump to the Facebook, y'all. It keeps saying it just is, the connection is unstable. Please wait while we reconnect. I don't know why this dude is here. You know, it don't just do it with my stuff either. My son, when he be trying to work on his stuff, he said, "What is wrong with this hotel Wi-Fi? They Wi-Fi here really sucks. It really does." I'm trying to see. It's good. It's good for you. Okay, well I'm gonna leave it alone because it keep giving me messages that it says your connection is unstable. Please wait while we try reconnecting. Okay, well I'm gonna just leave it alone. If y'all having issues, jump to the Facebook link. Join us on Facebook. I'm gonna just keep going. Okay. Who hath not beholden Jehovah, the all person? Who is it that crieth out, I behold him not? No harmony, no symmetry, no music, no complete whole. And to which will ye give preference in judgment? Is not the judgment of the perceiver higher than he who perceiveth not? This declare I of Jehovah, that in all ages there are many who perceive the all person, and many who deny him. If then the lack of an ear for music maketh a man dumb to a tune, is it not the lack of spiritual harmony then that causeth man to perceive not the everlasting presence of Jehovah, the all person? Listen, I'm gonna read that again. This declare I of Jehovah, that in all ages there are many who perceive the all person, and many who deny him. If then the lack of an ear for music maketh a man dumb to a tune, is it not the lack of spiritual harmony then that causeth man to perceive not the everlasting presence of Jehovah, the all person? Hear me, O angels and men. Can a man learn to sing who heareth not the harmony of a tune? How much less then can man or the spirits of the dead harmonize with the eternal whole if they perceive him not? And that's how that chapter ends. Chapter 3. I, Apollo, Jehovah's son, proclaim an age when man on earth considered not harmony, nor symmetry, nor music as gods. And Jehovah's voice came to me in the Ethereal firmament and place of Pitimus, saying, Apollo, my son, thou god of Suad, god of Danga, god of Ta, behold the red star, the earth. She cometh through thy dominions. Go thou to her with thy host, a sufficient number, and give her a new God, and call his name Apollo. Behold, neither men nor angels on the red star comprehend the harmony of my works, and because their own inharmony they deny me, being blind to my person. Go thou, my son, and make them idolaters of harmony, symmetry, and music for a long season, that they may become organically attuned from the time of their birth upward. I said, I perceive thy wisdom, O Jehovah, and I called together 100,000,000 of thy sons and daughters and told them what thou hast said. With one accord, they said, we have examined the red star since the time of Juan, and we perceive truly the time hath come for thy labor, O Apollo. I said, send an Onaya to the heaven of the earth and deliver her God and lords and all persons whatsoever and what I'm sorry, and all no, I'm getting tongue tied. I said, send an Onaya to the heaven of the earth and deliver her God and lords and all persons whatsoever capable of the second resurrection. And say ye to God and his lords, thus saith Apollo, son of Jehovah, and God of the Ethereal worlds. Greeting in the name of the Father and love unto you all. For your glorious work I have assigned 7 terrace and Danga. Thither gather ye your hosts, where is prepared a place of rest and comfort. The earth and her heaven shall be left in darkness for 30 of her days, having neither God nor lords. So my legions departed for the earth in an Ethereal ship of fire, led by Tuwain, goddess of Pro-King, a place of great learning in the Ethereal mountains of Horatanad, and they delivered according to my decrees. And the earth was without a God and lords for 30 days. And the voice of Jehovah came to me again, saying, hear thy creator, O my son. thou that springest from the long land since submerged, who hast spanned many of my worlds. Behold, the legions of Su and his mighty resurrections are still preserved to mortals and angels earthbound, of the gods and goddesses who danced and sang before man, and of the uneven match betwixt spirits and gods. Profiting in this, the people of the Red Star have become rich in rites and ceremonies, and preferring the swift footed to the slow, the nimble to the clumsy, the Lewis have well laid out the road to thy success. So I perceived beforehand how I should proceed when I landed in the lower heaven and her earth. When the time came, I departed, still remembering my natal star with well treasured pride, and that all things should express the labor of Jehovah put upon me. My Oniah excelled in beauty, all other Etherian vessels that had ever descended to the earth. How shall I comprehend thy magnitude, O Jehovah? What is the journey of beauty? But when we launch out into the Etherian realms, we fain would hide our faces in shame of our vanity. We sail through 1,000 of thy crystal worlds and talk of great distances, but the mirror of thy boundless creation lieth still before us. We recall the red star, we recall the red star, our native home, a single gem amidst the countless millions thou hast cast into the universe, and we are speechless because of thy awful extent. Wherein hast thou not excelled thyself, O Jehovah? In one moment we behold thy vastness, in another thy microscopic hand in the smallest ethic wave, and in the spear of grass down on the swift corporal stars. We applaud thee for thy handiwork, and yet ere our thoughts have overrun the smallest part, thou turnest our eyes inward to the soul of things in endless wonder. How shall I comprehend thy designs, O Jehovah? Thou drivest me back to the time thy angels came and stood man upright, saying, Be thou a man and be thou a woman, but they would not. Again and again, thy pitying hand stood them up, and thy voice came, saying, Talk, O man, come, thou shalt help to perfect thyself. But man was slow in perceiving wisdom, that which came to his flesh he loved. I remember the earth, O Father, men and women with long hair hanging down, and hands with claw nails, fierce and warlike, and hair in tufts and short curled, whose eyes were like a lion's, and mouth wide falling open like a dog that is tired. Therefore, thou hast called me, O Jehovah, and I perceive thy double purpose. For man left alone would select a mate and evolve to terrible war, and thou storest here an idol to unfit him for cruel deeds. And up above, after whose eyes were like a lion's, after were, it has reference number 1, and it says eyes were drawn down, right? Whose eyes were like a lion's, and the footnote says whose eyes were drawn down like a lion's. Okay, verse 18. We'll be at 34 minutes. Okay, we'll finish this chapter in like 3 verses, and then we'll pause here. So, from thy Ethereal realms, wherein for 50,000 years thy gods and goddesses had trained me to comprehend the discipline of thy created heavens, I came descending down to the red star, where thou first quickened me into being, that I might fulfill thy mandates. Thy hand took me up, thy hand set me down. I had learned not to fear. The tree of faith had grown in me. I knew the secret of all power. As a mortal goeth into a dark cavern where the air is damp and unacceptable to the nose, so came my host, O Jehovah, out of Etheria into the vortex of the earth, the dull atmosphere. The voice came to me saying, Go around the earth with thy Oniah, my son. For Stir up the atmospherians, they that know no higher heaven. Behold, they have mutinied against my God and Lord's, have rejected my preferred wisdom. Their delight is in war and the deeds of mortals. As men on earth gather round to witness beasts in battle, so gather these countless millions of spirits to witness kingdoms of mortals in war and fire and plunder, and by their presence urge men to cruelty and cunning horrors. And this is where we pause at today on page 100. We'll pick up chapter 4 tomorrow. All right. Put my page number. We'll jump on over here to the meditation book where we left off at Jen, Grand Rising, Grand Rising. Okay, so we are starting part 3, formal meditation practice and its effects on the mind. Y'all, this is all the stuff that I learned. It doesn't matter where I go. It seems to me, well, for my personal growth, I just kind of share with y'all what I run into. But everything that I have now, the portions where I'm at with each book, because I'm reading like a few different books at one time, it seems like there is like this continual connection of information where they all are stringing together now, where it's like I'm at the place in each of them where they're all talking about the same thing. And that just kind of like blows my mind. It's like you it's like you're getting a lesson here, and when it's like, okay, I done read enough of this today, and you go here and that same lesson picks up where it just kind of strings right into. I mean, and the books are not even related for real, different authors and everything, right? And the books are totally labeled something different, but it's like the same lesson. I can see the congruency everywhere I go. I don't know if maybe it's just I don't know. It's just weird that everything, no matter at what portion I've stopped at, it's there. It's like the same flow of stuff. Okay. Part 3, formal meditation practice and its effects on the mind. Introduction, page 127. A human being can be likened to a bird. Meditation is like the wings of a bird. There are some birds in nature which have lost the ability to fly. However, with some effort and training, they can fly if necessary. There are 2 ways in which meditation is to be practiced. One is the formal meditation, and the other is the meditative lifestyle. These are the wings upon which the mind can soar to unimaginable heights of expansion and infinity. So each aspect of meditation must be well understood and correctly practiced. Otherwise, there can be no leaving the confinement of ordinary human experience. The formal meditation is when you set aside a particular time, a particular place, and sit down to practice the 3 steps of meditation, which lead to the transcendental awareness or cosmic consciousness. The formal meditation practice involves 3 basic steps. These are concentration, extended concentration, and transcendental or cosmic consciousness. Thus, meditation is to be understood not only as an exercise, but as a lifestyle. As you practice living according to these teachings and serving humanity, ma'at, you are purifying yourself by removing gross impurities such as anger, hatred, greed, jealousy, etc. from your mind. As you practice studying and reflecting upon the teachings, you are removing ignorance, worry, anxiety, etc. from the mind. As you practice exercise and a healthy diet, you are purifying the physical constitution and removing toxins which affect your reasoning and emotions. As you practice devotion towards the divine, you are removing subtle egotistic impurities from your mind. Thus, the disciplines for spiritual evolution are to be practiced in an integral manner, and this method will yield the most effective results. The usual manner of progress in formal meditation involves concentration exercises in the beginning. As progress is achieved, the concentration practice focuses on concrete objects and then moves to abstract objects and ideas in the advanced stages. You may practice concentrating on any object. However, your success towards spiritual enlightenment will be enhanced if you use a spiritual icon such as the image of a deity. There is no danger in using a name and form as a representation of the divine as long as it is understood that it is only a symbol which does not capture the totality of the divine. A name and form is useful because in the beginning, the mind is too weak to sustain concentration on that which is abstract. As you progress in your spiritual practice, you will eventually move towards abstract ideas and finally to the absence of all thought. Then you will move beyond time and space as well as the ego itself. When you reach this level, you will discover that you are a separate entity from your body. I'm sorry. When you reach this level, you will discover that you are a separate senses and feelings, as well as its adversities and prosperities. You will discover a heretofore unknown peace, which you will learn to relish. This is the pace of the self. Oh, great spirit, shalom. Oh, great spirit, creator of all life and peace. Blessings to you. The concentration exercises in the beginning of the slowness meditation, as well as the practice of chanting and watching the breath, are three good exercises for beginning to control the mind. Eventually, you will not need to practice concentration because you will gain the ability to focus the mind at will. Also, don't forget that the more harmony and peace you foster in your life, the closer you will be to discovering the self. If you live in such a manner which reduces worry, you will hasten your steps in spiritual practice. Therefore, do not become involved in situations which lead to wasting mental energy. Do not argue with others over trifles. Do not engage in idle talk. Do not gossip or engage in entertainment which engenders restlessness and agitation in the mind. To the best of your ability, watch your thoughts, words, and deeds. Keep busy working on the worthwhile goals which will promote your success as well as harmony in the world. Seek the company of righteous individuals and, if possible, the company of authentic spiritual teachers, sages, and saints. This is known as the initiatic way of education, and it is the most effective way to promote spiritual knowledge and spiritual evolution. See Initiation into Egyptian Yoga, The Secrets of Shetty, and audio Initiatic Way of Education by Mawada Ashby for more on the initiatic process. That might be our title today. The Initiatic Way of Education. I think I'm gonna get that book too. I need to know what's in it. As you begin your practices in meditation, you should not put pressure on yourself to achieve results by a certain time. This attitude will be just another mental thought which will block your progress because it will cause mental agitation. You should hold the attitude that you will practice meditation indefinitely because you know that somehow it will benefit you and lead you further along the path to attain enlightenment. So let us begin with the concentration practice. My thing it keeps going in and out like I've been cut off on YouTube. But if y'all having issues, scroll all the way to the top. I put the Facebook link. Just join us on Facebook. I gotta figure something else out because this hotel Wi-Fi is terrible. Have you ever tried to hold a single thought in your mind? I'm sorry. This next section is labeled concentration. Have you ever tried to hold a single thought in your mind? Most people cannot hold one thought in their mind or stop the thinking process for even 4 seconds. In order to have success in controlling and going beyond the mind, it is necessary to control the mind. Therefore, concentration of the mind is the first level of meditation. It involves training the mind so as to develop the ability to hold attention on one object or idea. Concentration also consists of curbing the stray thoughts so as to cause a convergence of mental energy on a single object or thought. The object may be a flower or a divine icon, symbol. At this level, the practice of virtuous living is a great help because it allows you to conserve energy that would be otherwise wasted on the endless pursuit of desires and the indulgence in negative behaviors which agitate the mind and prevent concentration. In short, the mind in an ordinary human being is like an ocean with a myriad of waves of all shapes and sizes. Through the practice of meditation, the mind becomes like an ocean without waves. Have you noticed that when there are waves, it is difficult to see the bottom of the water no matter how shallow it is? Have you also noticed that when the water is calm, there is visibility because the sand and other objects in the water have settled to the bottom? In the same way, you cannot see the depths of your mind because it is constantly in movement. The sediment of unconscious impressions is constantly being stirred up, and the foam, sprays, and whirlpools of thoughts and emotions in the mind do not allow a vision of what lies beyond these. So, a person who is untrained in the art of meditation and yoga is constantly thinking about objects and how to acquire them, about the past, present, or future, about how to satisfy the desires which are constantly arising, and so on. You must learn to ignore the constant stream of input from these senses. This process of withdrawal will allow you to achieve true introspection. Like I do sometimes, I just when a bunch of thoughts, it's just like your mind want to get going. It's just I let them just flow through me like water. Come in and just flow right on out and bring the peace back. Bring the calm, you got to practice it at all times until it becomes natural, till it becomes like a natural way of your life, just like breathing. Like we don't have to think about breathing, we just do it. We come into the world just doing it, right? That's the same way you have to be able to control all the stuff that would get you off track in your mind and your thinking process. Many people and all these things like the news, everything is like those are the things that are causing the waves and the ripples in your mind constantly, right? Many people practice concentration in the world. The big difference in the idea of concentration is that it is presented here from that of the world. What? Hold on. The big difference in the idea of concentration as it is presented here from that of the world is that worldly minded people concentrate on any means through which they feel they can achieve the object of their desires. Some want to get rich, others concentrate on creating inventions, others on becoming wealthy enough so that they can spend their time in the various distractions of life which money can buy, and still others concentrate on evil activities. In spiritual life, the objective of concentration is to control the mind in order to promote purity of heart and strength of will. In the ancient Egyptian book of Coming Forth by Day, as well as the ancient Egyptian wisdom text 5000 BCE, the sole objective of all spiritual practice is explicitly stated to be the attainment of makharu, which is purity of heart, harmony, and righteousness, which will lead to spiritual realization. The reason for leading a meditative lifestyle, which involves detachment, dispassion, righteousness, and harmony, is so that you may be able to reduce the distractions and wastage of mental energy which is squandered away on things which are not needed and which, upon closer reflection, are not even real anyway. Many times people are so involved with the world of human experience that they cannot stop thinking about objects, people, or situations which they desire, hate, or wish to acquire. As long as this condition exists, it will be extremely difficult, if not impossible, to achieve success in meditation. Francis, shalom, shalom. Next section, aids to concentration. We got about 10 minutes left. Many people feel that their efforts in the practice of concentration only need to be emphasized during their formal concentration exercises. This is a limited understanding which will slow down one's progress toward effective meditation practice. In order to succeed in your formal meditation practice, you need to practice concentration not only when trying to meditate, but also during your daily activities. Many people feel that it is good to be involved with many projects at once. Some people even thrive on this way of being. When there is nothing going on, they must somehow find something to get into. Otherwise, they become restless and frustrated. In reality, this way of life is like a distraction which forms restless currents in the mind. Thus, when there is no exterior all active, or I'm sorry, since life is not all active or all passive, there will inevitably be periods of inactivity. A person who wants to be in harmony needs to learn how to balance these two aspects of human life. In daily activities, one should make an effort to accomplish one goal at a time, concentrating on that task before moving on to others. This will prevent the mind from being scattered in different directions, and it will also have the effect of making one's actions more qualitative and effective. There should be an effort toward one pointedness in all activities. This practice will help when it comes time to practice one pointedness during the formal sit down practice of meditation. Another important point is that you need to learn how to go deep within yourself. This is accomplished by paying attention to yourself instead of outside stimulus from your mind and senses. This is simple but not easy. You need to develop the ability to tune out or ignore your senses as well as the thoughts in your mind, and this process will occur if you follow the instructions given in this volume. The key to success in this practice is that your efforts must be put forth daily and regularly. You cannot expect to turn around the corner. I'm sorry. You cannot expect to turn around the currents of your mind in one day, nor can you expect to progress, nor can you expect to progress if your efforts are intermittent or without proper guidance. There is a beautiful parable which conveys the teaching expressed above. Once there was a businessman who needed help at his establishment. One day he went to the forest and while eating, poured some water on a tree. Nearby, there was a spirit who liked that tree, and the spirit thought that the man was offering him some libation. So the spirit appeared to the businessman and gave him a boon that he would give him anything he asked. The man was pleased and told the spirit that he needed some help at his establishment. The spirit said that he would help him with one condition, that if he ran out of work, he would eat the businessman. What? The spirit said that he would help him with one condition, that if he ran out of work, he would eat the businessman. The businessman agreed, thinking that he had enough work to keep the spirit busy for a long time. Oh, okay, I get it. Okay, if the businessman ran out of work to give the spirit that he would eat him. Okay, I get it. Okay. The spirit said that he would help him with one condition, that if he ran out of work, he would eat the businessman. The businessman agreed, thinking that he had enough work to keep the spirit busy for a long time. The next day, the spirit showed up to work and he completed every task that the businessman gave him in a flash, as if by magic. The businessman became concerned and went to his spiritual preceptor, who told him to have the spirit create a long pole and to plant it firmly in the ground. Then he should grease it and climb up and down until there was another task to perform in the store. This would effectively keep him busy until needed. The plan succeeded and the businessman survived with his new help. That's dumb. But I get it. I get it. The mystical interpretation is that the spirit is the mind of a human being. Its nature is to be involved with the world in constant movement. If this movement is not controlled, the mind will lead a human being into situations of grief and sorrow, which will devour peace, happiness, prosperity, both material and spiritual. Therefore, what is needed to keep the mind occupied with therefore what is needed is to keep the mind occupied with divine thoughts and feelings. Thus the movement up and down the pole symbolizes the practice of chanting the divine name, words of power, or in Christianity that would be praying in tongues, right, as well as the development of the inner life force energy and the psycho spiritual centers of consciousness, or Rat Sakim. These practices should be maintained when the mind is not engaged in the duties of life. When you need to perform some task, then you can go to it and concentrate on it fully. This practice will not allow this practice will not allow negativity and illusions to build up in the mind. You will develop the ability to purify your mind and to discover peace and bliss in all of your activities, along with achieving success in your meditation practice. I completely get that. I completely get that. Because if you just say practice praying in tongues or chanting, if you learn how to do that to where it just kind of takes over and it becomes a normal way of life and you're just doing it. Once you got to get it going like with your physical lips to get it going on the inside of you. But when you've done it long enough, it can keep going by itself. So you can literally hear yourself praying in your prayer language or your channel, whatever you want to call it, your haiku, your words of power. Even if you want to just use the English words, just call them words of power, right? You can actually hear that going on the inside of yourself, even while you're speaking and carrying out your day, right? You're giving your spirit something to do until your body needs to engage it, or vice versa, right? And you can ask a question and it's always in tune and you will get an answer like almost immediately, right? But you got to practice to see. You can't just do it one time, oh, this don't work. It must become a way of life for you even get to that point. Now you'll see after you go a few hours, you dedicate it to a few hours a day, you'll begin to see some results in a few days. You really will. But if you keep up with it, your growth and your wisdom will know no bounds, right? And you will see the steady progress and the process of your growth when you add that particular portion to your meditation or devotional life, whatever you want to call it, right? Wherever you're from in this world, whatever you want to call it, just do that. And you will see what I'm talking about. Many people have a misguided notion of spiritual life. They feel that a spiritual person must be a priest or priestess living at a temple away from the world. Otherwise, life must be lived by giving into the longings and desires as they appear in the mind. For some people, the secluded lifestyle may be the correct path, but they will already have done extensive spiritual work on themselves throughout many lifetimes. Some people think that they are ready, so they leave everything and join a temple only to find that they couldn't leave their mental complexes and worries behind. They built up the illusion that if they were segregated from the world, they could meditate and find peace. This is the wrong idea. There should not be a contradiction between your formal meditative experience and your day to day life. People who do not think in this way may experience peace in meditation, but when in the world, they are irritable, querulous, distracted, and restless. You will achieve greater success in your meditation practice if you seek to promote harmony at all times. For example, let us say that you have practiced meditation early in the morning and developed a harmonious feeling. However, at the end of your However, at the end of your spiritual practice, you begin to dread the fact that you have to go out into the world. And when you do, you experience anger and over something you I'm sorry. And when you do, you experience anger over something your boss did, or a driver who cut you off, or the fact of not getting enough pay, or a myriad of other problems. You are defeating the purpose of your meditation practices. You are promoting positive spiritual movement in one area, you are nullifying it in the other. The correct path can be accomplished through a keen understanding of spiritual practice, which comes from the continuous study of teachings under the proper guidance. The teachings of contentment figures, the teaching of contentment figures, what? Okay. The teaching of contentment figures prominently here. Contentment does not mean stopping your efforts to improve yourself. It does not mean giving up the struggle of life and letting God do all the work. The teaching of contentment is a profound mystical philosophy which must be understood thoroughly. The feeling of discontent arises when a person continuously compares themselves to others or engages in one desire after another. In this form of thinking, there is always something to be dissatisfied with. There is always someone with more money, a bigger house, or what you do not have. You will ensure that your life will be miserable and unfulfilled. Contentment means that you must realize that the self, God, has placed you exactly where you need to be, with exactly the right resources to gain the experiences you will need, which will lead you to spiritual enlightenment. With this profound faith and understanding, you must develop the feeling that your inner self is guiding you in a mysterious way towards that which is good and right. With this understanding, you can accept all situations in life with equal vision. And furthermore, you can see all situations, whether or not they are prosperous or adverse, as events which will lead you to spiritual enlightenment. Many people who have not studied mystical philosophy live their lives in a state of perpetual contradiction. If there is peace, they complain that there is no excitement, that things are boring. If there is a lot of excitement and movement, they complain that there should be peace and calm. If it's raining, they complain that there should be sunshine. If there is sunshine, they complain that it's too hot and the sun is making conditions uncomfortable, and so on. You should look at the world with an objective eye and accept it as it is and not try to impose your own egotistic notion of what it should be. A power far beyond your capacity to comprehend through an egotistic mindset is controlling every aspect of nature and has created just the right conditions that are necessary at the right time. Contradictions arise due to a lack of understanding. Therefore, if you become well versed in the mystical philosophy, you will be able to reduce the mental agitation which is caused by contradictions, and you will have the possibility to lead a peaceful life and enjoy life more fully. Further, you will develop a solid basis of inner harmony, which will make it possible for you to succeed in the practice of formal meditation. Okay. Let me finish this little section. Well, yeah, an hour and 4 minutes. Okay. The world of human experience is like the testing place for all the teachings you have learned. I love that. Right? The whole world is a lab for our spirits. The world of human experience is like the testing place for all of the teachings you have learned. You can learn about controlling your emotions and understanding that the world is an expression of the divine. But how will you react when you are confronted with ignorance, hatred, and desire? The world gives you opportunities to test yourself and to practice taking the high road. Every time you do this, you will be as if placing another brick on the inner temple of peace, harmony, contentment, and enlightenment which you are building. Your problem is not with the world, but with ignorance, restlessness, anxiety, anger, hatred, and desire within yourself. Therefore, you can practice spirituality anywhere in the world and achieve the highest goals of spirituality if you have true aspiration, self effort, and proper guidance. Your job is to make every effort within your capacity to act in a righteous manner and to use the gifts which you have been given. The gifts of the inner self are misused and squandered when a human being is guided by covetousness, discontent, greed, agitation, discontent, disbelief, impatience, pessimism, depression, and cynicism in the heart. This is why the spiritual scriptures of all traditions emphasize the development of virtue as a part of a viable spiritual discipline. Much importance is given to self control, fortitude, balance, contentment, faith, hope, and patience, among others. These teachings are prominent among the ancient Egyptian hieroglyphic texts, which date back more than 10,000 years. In general, a mental atmosphere of peacefulness and contentment is necessary for sublime thoughts and aspirations to emerge in the mind. Otherwise, through a life which is based on pursuing the satisfaction of the senses, there is constant desire and agitation of the mind, and the individual will always be occupied with the petty thoughts and disturbances of day to day life. Therefore, the maintenance of serenity and contentment should be the primary goal of a spiritual aspirant. The following ancient Egyptian proverbs from the teachings of Ma'at were available to Plato and the early Christian theologians who studied philosophy and mysticism in Egypt. These would have been the first teachings that initiates would receive. Ma'at itself, as discussed earlier, implies virtue, justice, righteousness, and order. Okay, so after I read these proverbs, then we'll end it for today here. Marker right here, page 133. Okay. Quote, they who revere Ma'at are long lived. They who are covetous have no tomb. Do not be, okay, that was the first one. I'll take a pause in between each one instead of saying the next one, the next one, next one. Okay. I'll reread that one again. Those who revere Ma'at are long lived. Those who are covetous have no tomb. Remembering that Ma'at means virtue, justice, righteousness, and order, right? Do not be greedy in the divisions of things. Do not covet more than your share. Don't be greedy toward your relatives. A mild person has a greater claim than a harsh one. Poor is the person who forgets their relatives. They are deprived of their company. Even a little bit of what is wanted will turn a quarrel into a hold on. Even a little bit of what is wanted will turn a quarreler into a friendly person. Ma'at is great and its effectiveness lasting. It has not been disturbed since the time of Asar. There is punishment for those who don't pass over its laws, but this is unfamiliar to the covetous one. When the end is nigh, Ma'at lasts. As a camel beareth labor and heat and hunger and thirst through the deserts of sand and fainteth not, so the fortitude of a man shall sustain him through perils. Do not conspire against others. God will punish accordingly. Schemes do not prevail. Only the laws of God do. Live in peace, since what God gives comes by itself. To be satisfied with little is the greatest wisdom, and they that increaseth their riches increaseth their cares. But a contented mind is a hidden treasure, and trouble findeth it not. Control your thoughts, control your actions, have devotion of purpose, have faith in your master's ability to lead you along the path of truth. Have faith in your own ability to accept the truth. Have faith in your ability to act with wisdom. Be free from resentment under the experience of persecution. Be free from resentment under the experience of wrong. Learn how to distinguish between right and wrong. Learn to distinguish the real from the unreal. See that prosperity, elate not thine heart above measure, neither adversity depress thine mind unto the depths, because fortune beareth hard against thee. Their smiles are not stable, therefore build not thy confidence upon them. Their frowns endureth not forever, therefore let hope teach thee patience. This last proverb implies the development of equal vision or equanimity. Through this practice, the aspirant is able to develop a balanced state of mind in any condition and thereby be able to practice continual reflection on God at all times. Thus develop thus develop the understanding that the day-to-day situations you encounter are in reality challenges which, if met with proper understanding, will lead you to greater inner and outer fulfillment. Many times, that person who spoke to you harshly will be changed when he or she does not receive a negative remark in return. It's a little bit sweeter than they are to kind of calm them down, right? Sometimes you don't want to. You want to give them the fire and turn it up 100 times hotter than what they're hitting you with. But sometimes it's just not worth it. You're going to expend way too much energy that you should have kept for yourself. I read that again. Lorette, shalom. Thus develop the understanding that the day-to-day situations you encounter are in reality challenges which, if met with the proper understanding, will lead you to greater inner and outer fulfillment. Many times, that person who spoke to you harshly will be changed when he or she does not receive a negative remark in return. In many ways, you will be able to discover that anger and hatred do not promote what you want, but patience, forbearance, and goodwill are sources of spiritual strength which can move worlds. What most people call meditation. Oh, hold on. We'll just pause because this was the end of the meditation portion. This next portion that I was about to start to read is the extended concentration meditation. We're going to pause right there. So we end right here. Okay. Ooh, can't see that. Okay, beautiful people. I hope y'all enjoyed the reading for today. It is Tuesday, May the 17th, 2022. We are on day 110 of year 4, reading through the books of the Law and the Prophets, and of the 4-year consecutive day count, day 1128. We read pages 95 to 100 in Oahspe and pages 126 to page 132 in the meditation book. All right, y'all. So reiterated. Look, I was talking to my sister about something yesterday, going through the raw contact, right? So I got up to session 20, and then it said something that made me. I was like, wait a minute, did I like fall asleep on this section when it was talking about this? So I had to go all the way back. I went back a few sections, a few sessions, and started listening to it again. Sometimes I'll let stuff play, but then after a while I'll just zone out, right? And I don't hear it. And somebody asked a question the other day. I forget who it was. Maybe it wasn't Audrey. Somebody asked, they said, did you hear what they said about Yahweh? I'm like, no, what they say? I ain't get to that part yet. So I figured out the portion about Yahweh. I'm not going to get into it, but if you got it, or I posted a PDF version, scroll and go to session 17 and session 19, and you can kind of just read through it, right? I think with this material, it's good to have the audible, but some stuff you just got to look at yourself and just make sure you understand it and just kind of like go through it and mark it. Yeah. So I called my sister. I'm like, oh shoot. I'm like, girl. I'm like, look, just like I go back, I said, look, we still learning. We going through all of this. I'm like, okay. So what if JC was in fact a real person, right? And I was laughing. I was like, look, girl, let's just see this through. Because I remember last summer we was going through just kind of going back and forth. It's like, okay, well, they could have created the character, but it seems to us that there's a compilation of different people that they just kind of mushed together and made it one person, which we can kind of see that throughout the Bible anyway, right? Especially when you get to the New Testament. That's how the characters are done. They take compilations of characters in the Old Testament and they combine them into one, just like they did with a lot of stuff, even with the even with JC himself, right? According to what we read in the Holy Bible, right? They take what the Old Testament calls God's son, which is a nation of people, right? Israel, and they take God's son and they condense it down into one person and call him Jesus Christ, right? So you got all this stuff going on that you're trying to sort out through your mind and everything. It's like, okay. And so now I really understand, like, well, a lot of people say the Bible contradicts itself and all. I was like, okay, I can see how you have that. But if you, I think sometimes people that say that they're not they're not diligent studiers of what they profess to have. They just want to throw stuff out. I think that's the lazy man's way out. It's full of contradictions. That's full of contradictions. That's why I don't that's why I don't read it at all. I'm like, well, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, because there's something good to be learned, even if it has been tampered with. If you study it long enough and kind of go through it and not scared, it was you. Okay, thank you, Lorette. I forget your name changed over here on Facebook, and it's different on YouTube. It was Lorette. Yes, I saw it, right? So now, according, y'all just got to get it because we already at our mark, but it's in session 18, right? Marche. Yeah, it was Marche. Okay, so on YouTube, she's Marche. On Facebook, she's Lorette. Okay, so you just got to get it and read. Like I said, just go to the community section, or if you're on Facebook, just scroll back to the post yesterday, wherever you see the raw contact, whether it's this cover or it's the black cover, you will scroll down in the description and you will see the PDF. Click on the PDF link and just scroll through till you get to session 17 and session 18 and just kind of read through it. Because they asked, I started laughing. I'm like, I was like, now me and my sister had this conversation. We said, now, Alicia, what if in fact he really did exist, right? I'm like, okay, Father, forgive us, right? Because we really been hard. Just in case he possibly did exist. I'm like, we trying to figure this out. Okay, so if he did exist, what was the purpose? What did he accomplish? Like, just being a really good researcher, pulling all the facts and stuff together. It was like, okay, so if he really did exist and he came, what was his purpose? It definitely wasn't to be worshipped, right? That's one thing that I'm understanding through the whole trend of everything. We have this whole worship piece all chopped and screwed up, right? Because when you get into the worship, I'll just say from my personal experience, when you get into the worship of deities, even if it's the worshiping of the one true God, there has to be a balance, right? Humans have the tendency to want to cleave on and latch on to anybody that know more than them, not not because y'all get what I'm saying, right? But they tend to put people on pedestals, and they get things all chopped and screwed, and they get out of balance. And right, none of them was supposed to be worshipped, right? And they start worshiping JC like he was God, right? Now, so that's something we figured out like last summer. It was like, okay, so if he did exist, right? And granted, we got all the shenanigans with the character and all this stuff through here. I was like, okay, they have all that. So let's see if we can remove ourselves from our emotions and how we're supposed to feel and all that. Oh, don't you talk? We remove ourselves from our emotions so we can actually look at the information just to make sure we kept ourselves balanced. It's like, okay, so according to the facts of what we perceive at this moment to be the facts, what he came to teach or to show us, it was to help us and show us how to operate while we're here, right? And so, yeah, he operated in love and forgiveness and all that stuff or whatever. But you go through these phases, especially when you're waking up. Um, you just gotta revisit everything, right? Don't be afraid to, like, you really have to be you have to do your own due diligence and understanding why you believe what you believe, right? And sometimes when you're going through that process, you may get clicked up, or there may be people in your circle that's not necessarily ready to do that. They're still kind of on the spooky side, or don't do that, you might curse yourself. They still operate out of fear, right? But I don't believe y'all condemns us when we begin to ask questions, especially when you realize that you were sent here to learn anyway, right? So when you get to the point where you start asking questions, you're at a good spot. Now it's time for you to grow. Okay, so I said all that to say they finally at where we at? Hour 20 minutes. Let me see. Listen. Hold on. I'm marking. I forgot what page, so I'm marked up. Hold on, I gotta find my highlights. Okay. Let me just read to you the question. Hold on. Dana said, hold on, I can't see it. Okay. Dana said, that brings up a question I had. When we were going to review all the when are we going to review all the information on the table? We keep adding to the table, but pausing to review and connect the dots. Bringing other information in, like now we about to review this Jesus piece. Look, so I was joking. I was hollering, laughing with my sister. Sometimes I can be honest with my sister and just hollering, laughing. Or your stomach start hurting. So we was talking about this whole Jesus piece, right? I'm like, oh shoot, we might have been screwed up. It was just hilarious, just kind of reading through here, just with what they said and just going back, revisiting some things, and just I'm like, okay, I can see that. I don't necessarily know for sure, but I can see that. Okay, so listen. Hold on. Okay. Lorette said, yes, I like how you said it. He was trying to teach us how to operate here. And that is precisely the thing. Even, let's just say, even if the character was created, there was a principle that was trying to be conveyed to us on how we should operate here, right? And he was operating on like the highest level. He was operating on like the highest level of love, right? And so I'm gonna just read this. If y'all gotta go ahead and go. This is recorded, but let me just read this. I'm like, you know what? I did all this talking about Jesus. I'm like, if you existed, forgive me, bruh. We'll get it corrected. I'm like, Father, forgive me. Let me just. I feel like I owe y'all this because I talked about them so bad. So let me just read it, right? Okay. This is something to add to the table to kind of help us sort out some of the stuff. Oh man. It okay. Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna have to figure out something. I locked up my portable Wi-Fi. It's in one of my boxes, and I don't know. Otherwise, I would have been and hooked it up. I might just go buy another one because this whole glitching stuff is plucking my nerves. Okay, session 17. February, and if you got the book, this is the original one. This is not the remastered one. I actually left that one in my truck. But it's the same information. It just the new one just adds a little bit more information about the people in their life and how everything led up to this, which is good. That's why I got both of them. Okay. So the question didn't start. Okay, so session 17 starts on page 163. But the question, what it asked about Jesus, was on page 165. And I'm gonna just read it. And I'm gonna read to you because right after it asks about Yahweh. Okay. Y'all, it's gonna take a few minutes. Like I said, if y'all gotta go ahead and go. I'm gonna just read this, right? Okay, and I think what I'm gonna do too, I'm gonna take this particular section and I'm gonna leave it in a video, but I'm gonna make an extra video and kind of do like a clip and go right to this and pull this out, and I'll post this too. I feel like I owe y'all that much just because I talked about Jesus so bad. Oh my gosh, I feel horrible. Okay, listen. Thank you. Hold on. Questioner. Okay, so the questioner is Don, the one who's asking the question, and Ra is the spirit who's responding, right? Or is the group, but they call themselves one, right? So they don't define themselves as individual, although they are individuals, but they respond as one, right? Okay. Questioner. Thank you. He said, thank you for the remarks to the last question he asked. Then he said, can you tell me who was the entity before his carnation on earth known as Jesus of Nazareth? Ra, I am Ra. I have difficulty with this question as it is phrased. Can you discover another form for this query? So he was saying, ask your question differently, and I can answer it for you. Questioner, what I meant to say was, can you tell me if Jesus of Nazareth came from the Confederation before incarnation here? So I talked a little bit yesterday about the Confederation, right? Confederation, you can just say it's different levels in the spiritual realm, right? So there's a certain level, what they call Confederation. Robin, shalom, shalom. Okay. What I meant to say was, can you tell me if Jesus of Nazareth came from the Confederation before incarnation here? Ra. I am Ra, the one known to you as Jesus of Nazareth, did not have a name. This entity was a member of fifth density of the highest level of that sub-octave. This entity was desirous of entering this planetary sphere in order to share the love vibration in as pure a manner as possible. Thus, this entity received permission to perform this mission. This entity was then a wanderer of no name of Confederation origins of fifth density, representing the fifth density understanding of the vibration of understanding or love. Questioner, did you say the fifth vibration was of love, was that of love? Ra, I am Ra. I have made an error. The fourth density being is that which we intended to say the highest level of fourth density going into the fifth. This entity could have gone on to the fifth, but chose instead to return to the third for this particular mission. This entity was of the highest sub-octave of the vibration of love. This is fourth density. Questioner, when I am communicating with you as Ra, are you at times individualized as an entity, or am I speaking to an entire social memory complex? And that's what they call the group. It's a social memory complex. I mean, it's a bunch of us, but we're considered as one. Is the best way I understand it is like my family. They're individual members in my Murphy family, but we're one family, right? We're the Murphy family. We're one family, but with many members. It's the same thing like a social memory complex. It's a group, but they're one, right? Okay. Ra, I am Ra. You speak with Ra. There is no separation. You would call it social memory complex, thus indicating manyness. To our understanding, you are speaking to an individualized portion of consciousness. Questioner, am I always speaking to the same individualized portion of consciousness in each session? Ra, I am Ra. You speak to the same entity through a channel or instrument. This instrument is at times lower in vital energy. This will sometimes hamper our proceedings. However, this instrument has a great deal of faithfulness to the task and gives whatever it has to this task. Therefore, we may continue even when the energy is low. This is why we usually speak to the ending of a session due to our estimation of the instrument's levels of vital energy. So the instrument is the woman Carla through whom they're speaking. And don't think this is all spooky because the church do it. They just call them prophets or prophesying. The spiritual realm is prophesying or speaking through the instrument, right? Could be the man of God or the woman of God, right? But you can tell when that takes over, it's the same thing. She was just laying down and they were speaking through her, right? And they set it up to where it could be longer sessions, as to where in church you see like shorter, sporadic flowings of the spiritual realm through an instrument or a human, right? The human is called the instrument. Okay, and in other places that sound more new agey and spooky to church ears, you call it channeling, but that's exactly what it is. The church does it every day, 24 and 7. They just change what they call it to make it sound less spooky to you. Okay. Questioner, I would like to make a point clear now that I am sure of myself. The people of this planet, following any religion or no religion at all, or having no intellectual knowledge at all of the law of one, can still be harvested into the fourth density if they are of that vibration. Is that not correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct. However, you will find few who are harvestable. Hold on. You will find few who are harvestable, whose radiance does not cause others to be aware of their, what you may call, spirituality, the quality of the mind body spirit complex distortion. And the mind body spirit complex distortion is simply just like our human bodies, all of us together, like our body, the mind, and our spirit, right? Where they say all three of the mind body spirit complex, or what we call ourselves as humans, right? That is correct. This is correct. However, you will find few who are harvestable, whose radiance does not cause others to be aware of their, what you may call, spirituality, the quality of the mind body spirit complex distortion. Thus, it is not particularly probable that an entity would be completely unknown in reality, even were this individual not caught up in any of the distortions of your so called religious systems. Questioner: when Jesus of Nazareth incarnated, was there an attempt by the Orion group to discredit him in some way? Ra: I am Ra. This is correct. And so, from what I understand, because I hear the Orion group a lot, and even in movies and stuff, you see them referring to Orion or all this stuff about Orion, right? And even in what was it? Lady, I think it was in the book of Job where Orion was mentioned. But this particular group, you can see, okay, so if you've read any of the Catholic, they call it Catholic pseudepigrapha, right? There are stories in there about Jesus and his younger days and stuff like that. And I've read through all of them, right? Like this was like the very beginning of me searching stuff out, right? And even just trying to figure out who JC was. So I read through all of that stuff, and it's really good. And I really enjoyed reading through it, gave some details. But at that point, it was still throwing me off because they was calling it pseudepigrapha. So I'm like, so somebody just made all this stuff up. Is this real or is this not? But either way, the stories were interesting to me, right? Listen. Hold on. Listen. Oh, so the whole point of saying it is what I understand the Orion group, sometimes I would say those who operate in like the psychic realm, like pulling information from like the Akashic records, sometimes the information, like they give you information that's gonna happen, but they don't tell you the full story, right? So they could tell you, yes, this gonna happen, but they don't tell you exactly what's gonna happen after that. Yeah, this may be good, but they don't tell you that you ain't gonna live to enjoy it the very next day. So they give you like half information. And that's what the Orion group kind of reminds me of, those spirits who are here that are part of that particular thing. Like, yeah, they'll help you, but it's almost like it seems to me, it maybe at least as my understanding is today, it seems like when you get help from them, it's almost like it comes with contingencies, right? And it's almost like them contingencies could be good and those contingencies could be bad, right? So that's what we're trying to figure out as we walk through this and figure stuff out. Who should we and who should we not be listening to? Okay. Questioner: can you tell me what the Orion group did in order to try to cause his downfall? Cause the downfall of JC. Ra: I am Ra. We may describe in general what occurred. The technique that was of building upon other negatively oriented information. This information had been given by the one whom your peoples called Yahweh. When I got to this, it started flooding in a whole bunch of information back to my mind from these few particular groups that they said, "Do y'all know who Yahweh is? He is the enemy." Right? I'm just like, what? I'm like, what are you saying? I couldn't comprehend it at that point. I just needed more time to keep researching and different things to kind of come back to me when it's time. And I have to look into it again, right? Listen. This information had been given by the one whom your peoples call Yahweh. This information involved many strictures upon behavior and promised power of the third density. Remember, and this, well, we kind of move into the fourth density, but power in the third density, like here, remember when Jesus was fasting, doing the 40-day fast, and he went up to the top of the mountain and Satan appeared and said, hey, bow down to me, I give you all the kingdoms of the world and all that stuff, right? So that's what it's talking about. Promises of power in the third density in this realm. You help me out, I'll make you a ruler here in this world. Kind of like what you see people talking about with the music stars and stuff. You know, they sell their soul to the devil for fame and fortune now, right? So fame and fortune now here in this time would be fame and fortune in the third density. Okay. Just kind of bring you up a little bit because we just skipped right to this section. You got to go back and just listen to all of it like in order as it builds up the information. Okay. These two types of distortions were impressed upon those already oriented to think these thought forms. This eventually led to many challenges of the entity known as Jesus. It eventually led to one sound vibration complex, Judas, as you call this entity, who believed that it was doing the appropriate thing and bringing about or forcing upon the one you call Jesus the necessity for bringing in the third density planetary power distortion of third density rule over others. So remember, I'm like, okay, he didn't just used all these what seems to me scientific words, but because I'm so familiar with the New Testament, I knew exactly what he was talking about. So remember, Judas like, I'm a, here he is. I'm gonna sell him to you. You give him the gold or whatever the tokens, and I'm gonna do this. I'll betray. He literally betrayed him with a kiss, right? But from Judas's standpoint, remember what the disciples was always asking Jesus: when is the kingdom gonna come? Right? When is the kingdom gonna come? They wanted revenge. They wanted Jesus to take over the kingdom right now. So Judas, in his estimation, he thought, because he knew that their master had power, maybe the situation just need to be structured just right, and we're gonna force Jesus to do what we think should be done. Just go ahead and kill everybody, take everybody out, and we just get back on top. That was Judas's thinking with what was going on. So he didn't think, which is why he killed himself after they took Jesus, right? All that money he is like, he was like, I don't want this, and nobody wanted the money. They say this is blood money. They done betrayed Jesus. That we ain't taking this money. We're gonna call this the field of blood, right? Because and that's what they leave out. In Judas's estimation, he wasn't betraying Jesus. He was actually trying to get Jesus to do what they knew he could do. They wanted the kingdom to come now. And so by setting that up, he thought, oh yeah, this is my dude is about to do something. But when JC decided not to do it that way and give his body instead operating on the law of love, it's going to explain this a little bit more. It really tore Judas up so much so that he couldn't live with himself because that did not play out how he thought it was going to play out. Listen. Now I say that confidently after reading this because of all the other stuff that I've read previous years ago, reading all of the old pseudepigrapha and all this stuff that I've ingested. Some of these pieces of the puzzle are actually kind of coming together now. Okay, listen. This eventually led to many challenges of the entity known as Jesus. It eventually led to one sound vibration complex, which they also refer to humans as sound vibratory complexes, right? We make sound, we vibrate, and we're a complex of body, spirit, and soul. Sound vibratory complex. It eventually led to one sound vibratory complex, Judas, as you call this entity, who believed that it was doing the appropriate thing in bringing about or forcing upon the one you call Jesus the necessity for bringing in the third density planetary power distortion of the third density rule over others, right? The kingdom of heaven. We want the kingdom of heaven now. We want you to bring it now, Jesus, right? Listen, this entity, Judas, felt that if pushed into a corner, the entity you call Jesus would then be able to see the wisdom of using the power of intelligent infinity in order to rule others. The one you call Judas was mistaken in his estimation of the reaction of the entity Jesus, whose teach learning was not oriented towards this distortion. This resulted in the destruction of the bodily complex of the one known as Jesus. We'll get into that, Francis. Okay. Questioner. Then, then if the entity Jesus was fourth density, and there are wanderers on the planet today who came from fifth and sixth density, what was it that Jesus did that enabled him to be such a good healer? And could these fifth and sixth density beings here now do the same? Ra. I am Ra. Those who heal may be of any density which has the consciousness of the spirit. This includes third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh. The third density can be one in which healing takes place just as others. However, there is more illusory material. The gate to intelligent infinity can only be opened when an understanding of the instreamings of intelligent energy are open unto the healer. These are the so-called natural laws of your local space-time continuum and its web of electromagnetic sources or nexi of in-streaming energy. Okay, so when he say time, he say space. When you see it or when you hear it, they say space time, like they're saying it together. It's space forward slash time or teach learning. It's 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 because you could do either or, like with teach learning, right? So you would say, I teach learn, right? So I teach, but I also learn from you while I'm teaching with the feedback. So that's why they don't just say a teacher or a learn. It's teach learn. It's a kind of give and take here in the world of duality. It's always teach learn, right? And when it's talking about space time, it's a section in here where they kind of talk about that. I forget exactly where it is. I got to go back, but it's definitely before the 17th section where to get into time a little bit. And this is where you have to understand about who was it earlier today? Somebody said something about reincarnation. We call it reincarnation here because we don't understand that at this level, this is the only level where there is what we perceive as time and lifetimes, and why it looks like we have to live many lifetimes or we die and come back to where, as in the other densities, the other spheres, time is unbroken, right? They don't see it from that way. It's unbroken. And even though to us, when you're trapped here in this density, it's like we die and then we get born again and had to come back and do it over. It's not really, it's not really like that if you look at it, right? Remember, we're the illusion here. This is the only level where we see things in duality, life, death. Everything else is a continuous, unbroken stream of life of the spirit, right? So it's just like going through grades in school. If you just think about it, if you go through school through the grades and say you fail first grade, right? If you fail first grade and you have to repeat it, that would be kind of like symbolic of, okay, you live this life, now you die. When you failed the first grade, you died and you have to come back. So now you're reincarnated and you have to do it again, right? That's kind of almost like symbolic of the process, to where though when you're actually going through school, you don't actually die. You just got to kind of go back and repeat it and learn what you didn't learn before you can move. That's exactly how it is. Although we call it reincarnation, coming back, you have to understand the deeper principles. Although we're using these words in this realm that we're at, in this realm of duality, don't take it like, oh my gosh, there's like no reincarnation. Okay, y'all missing a point. Y'all getting hung up on the words, but you're missing the lesson that's trying to be conveyed with what they're teaching you with the stories and stuff. And that's a big thing that we have to learn how to get over while we're here in this density, in this realm, in the realm of duality and polarities, right? Once we can get past that, we can keep going, right? Because remember, the spirit, the true us, it never dies. It's just like failing when we have to come back to this level and do it again. It's just like failing the first grade or failing the ninth grade. Okay, you didn't do so well, or you didn't quite, I mean, well, it's not good or bad. You didn't learn all that you should have learned. Let's take it through again, right? And so you get to come back according to the reincarnation, how you understand reincarnation, you'll come back. right? But you this time you'll look different than in the physical. Your physical vehicle will look different, but you're still the same exact spirit. All of your spirit, it all looks the same. You just get a different car, a new car this time when you come back through. And when you come back through this time, you don't come back in the exact same place. We're gonna put you over here this time and come through here, but it's gonna be the same exact lesson, right? Once we can really understand that, we can stop fighting over some of these mundane things that don't amount to a hill of beans. That like that has nothing to do with the price of tea in China. You're missing the point. And that is not what we're trying. We're not trying to fight over words. We're really trying to pull the lessons from all of these things so we can continue growing. Okay, so let me finish this real quick. We almost at 2 hours. Let me finish. Okay. This entity, Judas, felt that if pushed into a corner, the entity you call Jesus would then be able to see the wisdom of using the power of intelligent infinity in order to rule others. So it feel like, okay, if we push him into a corner, he gonna use his supernatural stuff that he know how to do, and we just do this. Like, that ain't even how this work, right? The one you call Judas was mistaken in this estimation of the reaction of the entity of Jesus, who teach learning was not oriented towards this distortion. This resulted in the destruction of the bodily complex of the one known as Jesus. And look, and I want to get to this portion where they talk about, because they're going to ask the question about him coming again. That's what I'm going to get to, and we're going to pause after that. But if y'all got to go ahead. It's going to be recorded, and I'm going to pull this out for a little separate thing. Okay, listen. Questioner. Then, if the entity Jesus was fourth density, and there are wanderers on the planet today who came from fifth and sixth density, what was it that Jesus did that enabled him to be such a good healer? And could these fifth and sixth density beings here now do the same? Ra. I am Ra. Those who heal may be of any density which has consciousness of the spirit. This includes third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh. The third density can be one in which healing takes place, just as others. However, there is more illusory material to understand, to balance, to accept, and to move forward from. The gate to intelligent infinity can only be opened when an understanding of the instreamings of the intelligent energy are open unto the healer. Meaning you can't just jump into it. Like, you really have to have an understanding of all that's going on in order for you to flow without being stop and halt it because something not working, right? So in the church, that would be like one of my, okay, well, how come people ain't really getting healed? They doing all this is like surface stuff. I'm like, but what about, I want to see somebody's leg grow out. I want to see somebody who had like a something that they said was they had to live like that all their life, like Down syndrome. I said healing that would be a real miracle to me. But nobody puts in the time that it actually takes to understand what we are and who we are to really be a true healer. You got people masquerading as healers on this earth, and they're nothing more than shenanigans and money takers, right? Because they ain't really doing nothing that'll really cause the masses to come flooding and running like, teach me, and like literally give them a reason to really put you on a pedestal, right? The gate to intelligent infinity can only be opened when an understanding of the instreamings of intelligent energy, or the intelligent energy or information from the spiritual realm. The gate to intelligent infinity can only be opened when an understanding of the instreamings of intelligent energy are open unto the healer. These are the so-called natural laws of your local space-time continuum and its web of electromagnetic sources or nexi of instreaming energy. Know then first the mind and the body. Then, as the spirit integrated and synthesized, these are harmonized into a mind body spirit complex which can move among the dimensions and can open the gateway to intelligent infinity, thus healing self by light and sharing that light with others, right? And this has been scientifically proven. Being able to heal somebody, not just with the laying on of hands or speaking, but with sound and with light. These bodies can literally be healed and restored, right? True healing is simply the radiance of the self causing an environment in which a catalyst may occur, which initiates the recognition of self by self, of the self-healing properties of the self. Questioner: how did Jesus learn this during his incarnation? Ra, I am Ra. This entity learned the ability by a natural kind of remembering at a very young age. And this is some of the information. When they started talking about this, I started laughing because I know what they're talking about, because some of these stories you can find, excuse me, in the pseudepigrapha, like Jesus' early days and stuff. And it'll give you all those different accounts where he even killed a boy because he pissed him off. I'm like, Jesus, you had a bit of an anger issue, didn't you? Look, but you got to go read it. I'll share that today. If you haven't seen it, I'll share a couple so you can read through it when you get the chance, at your leisure. Listen, this entity learned the ability by enough time. He first discovered his ability to penetrate intelligent infinity by becoming the distortion you call angry at a playmate. This entity was touched by the entity known as Jesus and was fatally wounded. Thus, the one known as Jesus became aware that there dwelt in him a terrible potential. This entity determined to discover how to use this energy for the good, not for the negative. This entity was extremely positively polarized and remembered more than what most wanderers do. Questioner: how did this aggressive action against a playmate affect Jesus in his spiritual growth? Where did he go after his physical death? I'm gonna share them, Lorette, the pseudepigrapha books. I'm gonna share them. Hold on. So you can read it. And it's all online. So, well, you can get them printed, but I'll give you the links where you can read them for free. Excuse me. Ra, I am Ra. The entity you call Jesus was galvanized by this experience and began a lifetime of seeking and searching. This entity studied first day and night in its own religious constructs, which you call Judaism, and was learned enough to be a rabbi, as you call teach learners of this particular rhythm or distortion of understanding at a very young age. At approximately at the age of approximately 13 and one half of your years, this entity left the dwelling place of its earthly family, as you would call it, and walked into many other places seeking further information. This went on sporadically until the entity was approximately 25, at which time it returned to its family dwelling and learned and practiced the art of its earthly father. Which was Joseph being a carpenter, right? Okay. When the entity had become able to integrate or synthesize all experiences, the entity began to speak to other selves. Other selves would be, you call yourself the self. Other selves are everybody else other than you. Like y'all would be other selves to me, to myself. I'm a self, y'all are other selves. Y'all get it. When the entity had become able to integrate or synthesize all experiences, the entity began to speak to other selves and teach, learn what it had felt during the preceding years to be of an worthwhile nature. The entity was absolved karmatically of the destruction of an other self when it was in the last port. Hold on. The entity was absolved karmatically of the destruction of an other self when it was in the last portion of lifetime and spoke upon what you would call a cross, saying, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. In forgiveness lies the stoppage of the wheel of action, or what you call karma. Questioner: what density is the entity known as Jesus in now? Ra, I am Ra. This information is harmless, though unimportant. This entity studies now the lessons of the wisdom vibration, the fifth density, also called the light vibration. Questioner: in our culture, here it is. In our culture, there is a saying that he will return. Can you tell me if this is planned? Ra, I am Ra. I will attempt to sort out this question. It is difficult. This entity became aware that it was not an entity of itself, but operated as a messenger of the one creator whom this entity saw as love. This entity was aware that this cycle was in its last portion and spoke to the effect that those of its consciousness would return at the harvest. The particular mind body spirit complex you call Jesus is what you would call an entity not to return except as a member of the Confederation speaking through a channel. I read that again. The particular mind body spirit complex you call Jesus is as what you would call an entity not to return except as a member of the Confederation speaking through a channel. So everybody, remember, I still be joking about it all the time. Like, they still waiting for Jesus to come back to get them. Like, he is not ever coming back, like in physical, to return. Like what we see now, how the spiritual realm speaks to us, that is the only way. Whether you want to call it Jesus or whatever you want to call it, the spiritual realm of Yah will talk to you like that. Okay, the questioner. That's why I say y'all got to read it. The questioner is Dawn, right? The woman who's the channel that they're speaking through, her name is Carla. And then you have Jim, right? So y'all gotta, I said some of this is gonna be like, wait a minute, you missing stuff. So you have to go back to the beginning because it's gonna fill in all of those questions, right? So they were a group of friends, and their energy worked well together, like up into, because they meditated, and the truth that they were seeking, they just kind of, without knowing, kind of put themselves in a place that allowed them. They were like the best channels at the time in the 80s to actually get this information to the people of the earth. Like, they just found themselves in a place where they just kind of became, oh, these are the closest ones they're gonna have to do, right? was this was this the 80s? Yeah, it was 1980, 81, and 82 when this happened. Like I said, if you get it or you listen to it, even the PDF version, Dana, I posted it yesterday. Just kind of scroll back and you will see it. Open up the PDF version, kind of read through it. It's really long. Or you can listen to the Audible. The Audible you got to pay for on, Amazon, but it's a free version, which I also posted on YouTube, but it's a bit slower because as the person is speaking, or as they're speaking through her, it's a little bit slower than what you experience in church, to where sometimes when you open up yourself to the spirit of Yah and he's speaking through you, it's like a flow, like there's no breaking the words. You can hear clearly what I'm saying, right? It flows like that. But if you listen to the YouTube, it's like, I am Ra. The person you refer to as Jesus was known as, and that's how it moves. That's how it moves on YouTube. And if you impatient, that's gonna pluck your nerves. Dana, you gotta go through it. That's why I say it sounds, you just can't jump in here, but I pulled this out just to bring this portion for those who kind of like been going along. You just gotta start at the beginning. Just gotta start at the beginning. Otherwise, you hop, just like hopping right in the middle of the Bible. It's the same thing. That's what I said. That I only pulled this out because of a certain reason. But y'all just start at the beginning. Start at the beginning, Dana. It's not contradictory. What I understand now, it's not contradictory once you have more pieces of the puzzle and you're able to put it all together, right? But we ain't even done. It gets more into this, but I just want to read it up to this particular portion right here. Okay. I am Ra. I will attempt to sort out this question. It is difficult. The entity became aware that it was not an entity of itself, but operated as a messenger of the one creator, whom this entity saw as love. This entity was aware that this cycle was in its last portion and spoke to the effect that those of its consciousness would return at the harvest, particularly the particular mind body spirit complex you call Jesus is as what you would call an entity not to return except as a member of the Confederation speaking through a channel. And that I can 100 wholeheartedly agree with, because you not, you when you die here in this particular realm, when you come back, like, you don't come back the same, like in the same body. So in that aspect, coming back like that, like definitely is not coming back. But the information you get, it's to continue the path of growth and evolution for all humankind, if I could just say it that way, right? Because this is just the lower levels. You just go and you grow. You don't get taken from here like the thinking is like, okay, Jesus coming back. Because when you get into that mindset, Jesus coming back to get me, it almost puts you in a state of doing nothing, right? And it's just like, oh, Jesus take the wheel, right? But what do you do when you give Jesus the wheel? Like you stop growing, you stop doing anything, and that's the wrong concept of what we're supposed to be doing, right? Because you do that, you're gonna find yourself being frustrated a whole lot longer. Because what do y'all say to Joshua? You get the people up, that they down, they laying on their face crying out. They tell them to get to grow, and it's like, don't call on me for everything. Like I've given you stuff. We can see what y'all is trying to teach us. We live it every single day of our life. We just don't recognize it. Everything that we need, we already have here, and we experience it throughout every single avenue and thing that we experience in life, even with growing with a family, growing up. The same cycle is being done over and over and over again, but we seem to miss it. And sometimes it takes a little while to kind of catch on what's really happening, right? This particular mind body spirit complex you call Jesus is as what you would call an entity not to return except as a member of the confederation speaking through a channel, or through prophecy, or whatever, however you want to term that. However, there are others of the identical congruency of consciousness that will welcome those to the fourth density. This is the meaning of returning. And that's where I'm gonna pause it at. But you can kind of keep going, and some stuff keep picking up. But we are literally at the 2 hour mark. But I definitely wanted to give y'all that perspective, from some of the things that we have already learned and things that we still got on the table. We questioning everybody, right? So we're going through all the ancient writings, all of that stuff. We can't. You don't really grow when you're just married to one thing. Not okay. That probably sounds bad. Maybe I need to rephrase that. Okay. So we know that there is one creator, right? Even here is the going thing, even throughout Oahspe and throughout even some of this stuff and other things, they, I guess you could say those on the side of light, those that are actually helping us grow, they all agree that there is only one creator, right? They call them Yah, you can call them the Great Spirit, but that is something that's why I choose the particular ones I choose, because I'm like, okay, it's bringing in some new things we haven't seen or quite understand. But the one going thing that we can agree on is that there is one creator, right? Even through the book of Enki, the Lost Book of Enki, the complete Anunnaki Bible, all of that, they still always refer to the one great creator. Even with this, through this contact, they said we come in the love and light of the only one true creator. And they end every session with Adonai. Like we would say amen, they say Adonai. I'm like, that's amazing in itself. So I carefully choose what I put out here. That's the first thing I always look for. Is there congruency with who we worship? I mean, I kind of use worship lightly, but with what we believe. Do you believe that there is one true creator and all stems out of him? And even though I refer to the creator as Yah or he, now I want y'all to understand when I say that, because I understand that all comes out of the one, that there is a oneness or an echad or the law of one, and we only see the split up dualities and stuff down here. So it's not when I say he, that also includes she, right? Because there is no gender there, but he and she comes out of the one. But I just say he by default because it's kind of hard to break that habit. And I don't want to go into I don't want to say it. I feel like that's a disrespect. I feel like he is more personal, but sometimes people, if they haven't been here, why they don't know, they may think I lean more towards the patriarchal side. Or if I say she, I don't want to get y'all unbalanced for somebody to come in, oh, God is a woman. Oh my gosh, you just showed up, didn't you? There is no it just like like what we call reincarnation, all that is here, what they call the third density or in the fleshy realm or the flesh realm here, there is just like gender is only here, right? Because as you grow, even though you may be referred to as he or she based on what your gender was here, when you get to the realms above here, there is no gender. Like there's no marriage, reproduction and stuff because it doesn't happen there. This is the only realm where we experience that. And I think once we can kind of bring those foundational pieces together, we can kind of stop arguing over some of the mundane, unimportant stuff that really has nothing to do with the price of tea in China, right? We miss the point too much. We focus on the wrong things, right? And it's a process. Like I went through it, now I question everything, and that's good. And you should. Don't ever like not ask me a question if you think I'm getting off. Just ask me the question. I say he, she. I get tired of hearing he because I feel like they set it up that way because of the patriarchy. They say, yeah, they do. That's why. And sometimes I'm really trying to get out of look, and I hate to sound like what they doing today, just removing gender altogether. You could just choose what you want to be when you come into this earth. It's just like I really got to be careful what I say because I don't want people to get me chopped and screwed like I believe in a certain way or push a certain thing that I really don't. So I'm trying to figure out a way where to keep the balance. So I think sometimes I'm just gonna have like now I take the time and just kind of explain again. So I think that's why sometimes I try to just stick to saying Yah. But even Yah, it's like uh patriarchy, right? So sometimes I just like Yah with the understanding that he is comprised of male and female energy, right? We only see the duality here, but from their standpoint, they don't see the duality. They see one, right? I just okay, y'all get it. So I hope y'all enjoyed that in that little step. And I know we went over extra long today, but I definitely wanted to read. I felt like I owed that to y'all. I owed it to myself because I listened to it. I'm like, well, God darn it. I'm like, okay, Will Justin, okay, pull it together, Pam. All right, you're gonna have to share it. So, but I thought it was good, So put that on the table too. Yeah, I know, Lorette, right? Okay, y'all. So with that being said, I hope y'all enjoyed the reading for today. I already went over the what you call it. So may Yah continue to bless you. The great, maybe I'll just start saying great spirit, but that feels weird to me. I'm gonna use what I use in my personal private worship, the most holy. That's what sounds that's what really resonates with me, right? The most holy, right? That's not gender specific, but it refers to the great spirit, to Yah, right? And it's just like y'all get it. Lorette said, "Hey, Tootie."
Hey.
All right, y'all. So with that being said, she was fighting with me with the baby doll she wanted, and they really didn't have any baby dollars that was close to her color. So, and I just didn't want to fight that fight with her yesterday. So I was like, "Girl, take the doll. I don't care." All right, y'all. But you know what's crazy is children don't see color like we see color, right? Like I'm like, girl, you don't put that white baby doll down. Not no disrespect to anybody. Like I got a lot of white friends and stuff, right? But sometimes I just, I want her to learn about her and but sometimes it's just like, what's the point? Because sometimes when you try to do that, it's like I just don't want to teach that to my children the wrong way. I love the way children see no color, right? They don't see the dualities and stuff we see until we start teaching them, until they start getting exposed to certain things, right? But when they get exposed to it, I want to make sure that it's a healthy exposing that they see, so they carry that out in life, so um they don't operate in discrimination and biases that we're still trying to break ourselves out of because of how we were learning and all this other craziness, right? So sometimes I just got to pump my own brakes. I'm like, you know what? That's all you don't even put that on that baby. So, but anyway, y'all, that's it. May y'all continue to bless you all. And as you grow, may you have the strength to adjust to what you know is right. Even if you don't know, but at least have the courage to be like, you know what? I might be wrong, right? Because that's when real growth happens, when you realize you don't know it all. And you could possibly be wrong, but you could be right. But the point is, you need to double check and verify what it is. And ask the great creator for help. All right, y'all. With that being said, I'm out of here. We done. I love y'all.
Oatmeal.
So what? Get you some oatmeal? Okay. Eloah represents male and female principle energy. Okay. I really didn't get into that. But I in the what Bible? My Sefer. Eloah is used a lot, So but yeah, you're right, But sometimes it's just because we ignorant and we unlearned. We I think the ending was it suffix prefix? Yeah, the ending suffixes throw us off sometime, and if it ends in like or la, like Pamela, we think, oh, it's feminine. Like we get everything all kinds of things. We all learning. All right, y'all, that's it. We out of here. Tootie, come on, come in this. I love y'all. See y'all back here tomorrow, bright at 7:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Bruce. Come on, indicate. Okay, should be all right. Come on.
I just got in bed.
Okay. Go ahead, end it.
Bye.
Bye.
So why you not looking?
Somebody said something while she was cutting it off, talking about the word Eloah. Okay, I'm gonna have to look at it. Go ahead and finish ending it. Thank you. All right, y'all. See y'all later.
Mom, where's Nani?
All the way at the top. Okay, go ahead and end the stream. Oh, no. There you go.
I actually don't.